At Marco, we believe that culture comes alive when we truly connect. That's why we created Sync Podcast. Hit play and add your voice. Culture syncs up when we resonate together.
Welcome to the Sync Podcast. How are you, Nati?
Hi, Lilo. I'm great. How about you?
Very well. We're in a new format. That is, these Sync podcasts are something that's being created mainly to experience and explore our culture a bit more. Right? Isn't that so?
Yes, exactly. Lilo, honestly, what we hope for with this Sync podcast is that we discover ourselves, meaning through our culture, those concepts we always see floating around, how they actually take shape, that is, in our daily lives, in our reality, that we go about discovering ourselves, looking at our culture, making this connection with our daily lives, our reality, how we experience it, right? In other words, how we live our culture.
Absolutely, absolutely. And well, let's see what comes up in this first episode. But for now, what the team has suggested as the first topic for today's podcast is precisely to talk about our purpose. Something so personal, so unique as it was defined at the beginning of this year, because honestly, we worked on it last year. Our purpose is about, or says the following, right? Enriching lives by reimagining the ways people and brands connect. That purpose was created at a very special moment. Do you remember, Nati, how it happened? Because we were actually at the summit in Colombia, at the Reimagining Summit. And honestly, even though we had two very clear objectives for that summit, one of them was to redefine the company's purpose with a view toward what Marco is going to build in the future. I mean, we're also celebrating our 30th anniversary. By the way, a quick note, this November 5th marks 30 years since the company was founded. The second objective we had at the summit was to define two goals for this year and the next. But let's focus on the purpose. Do you remember how that happened? Because honestly, it was crazy. I mean, 2.5 days completely immersed in a ton of things.
Intense.
Like us, I'd say.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, the particular part, we truly reconnected very deeply and genuinely. I honestly think that the various activities made it so that before anything else, we profoundly connected as individual people, right? Then to start letting go of something from the past, or a previous idea, so we could look toward the future, right? I mean, this stage of the process also seems super, super interesting and really necessary to me. And right there with that preparation, to start thinking about the company's purpose or to redefine what the purpose is. And there, well, yes, a lot of intensity, but with a lot of guidance, right? I mean, we went through this process in a much more guided way and with a lot of happiness, because in the end, when we arrived, when everyone was really in agreement, when the purpose was born, I remember that, there was a lot of excitement, right? That feeling of, wow, yes, it really hit me. And it all makes sense and everything is kind of like that, right? With a lot of excitement.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I remember, as you said, it was 2.5 days of a lot of work gathering points of view so that we could build. In the half day, we had left this purpose, right? The purpose that ended up coming to light. And I remember that the HD team, for those who don't know, the HD team was the consulting firm. Human Design is the name of the firm that accompanied us on this journey, because we didn't do it alone. By the way, it's the same company that accompanied us in the previous process. They would say to us, guys, well, it's already 7 p.m. Do you want to go have dinner? And we were like, no, let's keep going. We have to get this done.
There wasn't really that kind of commitment. No, we didn't have that feeling of, we have to leave here with a purpose.
Of course, I told you all that it would be a really great gift for the company if we could come up with the purpose. But that I understood, let's say, at the start of the summit, I told you that I understood it might not come out in these 2.5 days. But anyway, and we kept going until 9 p.m, when at 9 o'clock on that whiteboard, we finally wrote down our purpose. And I remember the euphoria. I remember shouts of joy and everyone jumping like we were kids celebrating that our future was clear and our future had form and words, and that we were all in agreement. And that's when a question arises, right? let's say, and I remember that someone once mentioned it to me. They said, "Why did you do this? Why was that the moment to reimagine, if you will, the company's purpose?" Clearly, the company goes through different stages. And today, the company is looking at the future from a different moment, from a different place. And that's why the purpose was being reconfigured. It was necessary for the new leaders of the organization. Because remember, there's a renewal, there are more people, more voices participating to bring a new imprint to the company, to that company we want for the future. So, Nati, here's what I propose. We've received some audio messages. They asked the team, the dream makers, former Pero-Opers, to tell us what they see in the purpose, what they feel. There's a little bit of everything. Let's listen to the first audio, shall we?
All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Bravo. I live in Chile. I am an OperaCon manager, and I have the pleasure of leading the HP projects in Chile, as well as ASUS in Chile and Colombia. I want to take this moment to reflect on our powerful purpose, enriching lives by reimagining the ways people and brands connect. From my role, I connect deeply with this purpose because of my constant need to get out of autopilot, to look for new ways to do things better, and also because I value a leadership style that is centered on people. That said, I would like to share something that I consider fundamental. When we support people in their professional development, take the time for them, inspire them, and build genuine relationships, results always come naturally. And that applies no matter what role or position we hold. So I invite you to keep leading with purpose and to leave a mark in every action or decision you make. Wishing you much success and best regards.
How nice it is to hear from Vic. Thank you, Vic. Thank you so much for your little message. Nati, would you like to start with something that stood out to you?
Yes, something very central, which I truly believe in, is precisely this aspect of seeing people, not just people in general, but nurturing the relationship itself, which is really about the encounter between a person and a group or a project, this union that brings about transformation. So when we talk about enriching lives, about impacting people, it really ties into the kind of leadership Vic talked about, always closely connected to the relationships people have with Marco, with the project, with the client, with the whole environment in general. I think this is key. That was what caught my attention among the many other things Vic mentioned.
Yes, once again, thank you, Vic. Something I find excellent, leading by being genuine. I think that if you intend to enrich the lives of others, you clearly have to be genuine. In other words, I think that's an extremely important ingredient you bring up. And what does it mean to be genuine, guys? To put it more concretely, it means being who we are, accepting ourselves as we are. Because the sum of what we do as a team is what ultimately allows us to enrich the lives of others. It's about being yourself with your successes and your mistakes. That is what it means to be genuine. And accepting yourself from that place is extremely mature. When you look at human relationships in the corporate environment, they are often idealized. It's as if at a certain point they become colder concepts, when in reality, human beings are imperfect. And the most beautiful thing about all of this is that we make mistakes. And in that, the concept of making mistakes is about accepting yourself and accepting others. And when you work with purpose, you work by being genuine. And another thing that struck me is the topic of results. And here, what I think is very important is that when you work with purpose, you always achieve results. But anyway, thank you so much, Vic. Honestly, I thought your contribution was extraordinary, truly extraordinary. Nadia, I think we have someone else, right?
Yes, we have one more person. Let's see.
Let's listen.
Hi, I'm Mariana Jerry from Argentina. I'm in the Turing unit and I'm an au pair. Marco's new purpose inspires me because it made me reflect again on why I do what I do. Although I work in the commercial area, my background is in human resources and I've always had a very people-centered perspective. That's why the purpose of enriching lives and reimagining how brands connect with people really resonates with me. It inspires me because I feel it moves us away from just executing and invites us to think about the real impact we generate, both on people and on businesses. When brands truly manage to connect with people, they not only build more genuine relationships, they also sell more, grow, and become stronger. And being able to support this process from my role, understanding that financial results come as a consequence of doing things right with empathy and purpose, is what motivates me the most.
Thank you very much, Marian. It's so nice to hear you.
It's been a while since I last heard Mari.
You know what? That's true. Me too. I mean, it had been quite a while since I last heard Marian. Nati, would you like to add something here?
Yes, you see, this very important topic of being truly genuine comes up again. I mean, a significant portion of that particular aspect. And also something quite profound that Mari thoughtfully talked about, which I think is super important and incredibly insightful, is precisely this deep connection between her personal purpose, like how the company's overarching purpose has become much more profoundly coherent and significantly relevant in her daily life, because it genuinely connects with something she also deeply experiences, something fundamental she possesses as a general guiding purpose, as a complete person, right? Marie also mentioned something else that truly made me pause and think extensively about one of our core values. Marie talks about empathy, and whenever we talk about hyperconnection, I think there's also a lot of this care of being able to enrich lives by getting to know others. I mean, by having this hyperconnection with others so that we can have a positive impact on people's lives, right? So, well, it's a mix, because Marie also talked about a lot of things there. I mean, really interesting things, but I want to highlight these elements a bit.
Once again, thank you, Marian, because this topic of connecting personal purpose, developing personal purpose, and the company's purpose, how important it is for them to be united, right? Let's say that they follow similar paths, because I think how complicated it could be to not live out your own purpose, right? But let's keep talking a little more about purpose. And as you mentioned, Nati, the concept of making an impact, making a positive impact, that is within a purpose. Or in this case, in the purpose that we want, it's about leaving a mark, leaving a legacy, making an impact on others, right? And here I want to suggest something, Nati, because the other day when we were talking, you gave me a new perspective on purpose. And what do you think if we break it down a little bit quickly and bring it down to earth? Let's see if we can give it a bit more life in our daily routine, right? Let's say, how is purpose lived out at the point of sale in the day-to-day work? So what does it mean to enrich lives? So I'll stick with this first question I want to ask you, because the other day we were talking and you gave me a really beautiful perspective about your first reaction to the idea of enriching lives. Would you like to share a bit about that?
Of course, I felt a bit uncomfortable. I mean, when I heard it, we were actually doing this exercise, right? About designing the purpose and all that. And I don't remember who it was that mentioned enrich, but it made me feel something like, don't we have another word? And why is that? Because when I hear enrich, it kind of gives me this feeling that it's very tied to the economic aspect for me. So I started and at that moment we started to discuss and all that, precisely to get to understand what it means to enrich. First, each person starts to have their own translation of this concept for themselves, right? I mean, but here at Marco, what we are very consciously aware of is that this idea of enriching speaks much more from a perspective of prosperity, of thinking about a process of evolution as human beings, like the impact we generate and receive from the environment, and this evolution in a much more sustainable way, right? I mean, obviously the economic aspect is going to be there, of course, but it doesn't just come down to that, right?
I loved the way you put it, honestly, because I thought it was really beautiful. That is, because clearly when we talk about enriching, we're talking about prosperity. And making that explicit, I think, adds a lot of value to help us understand it from the right perspective. Clearly, prosperity refers to an economic aspect, but not just that. And you yourself were just talking, you were mentioning the concept of sustainability, the sustainability of our relationships, our businesses, the impact on the communities where we operate. And let's not forget about the point of sale. That is, when we're making an impact at a point of sale, when I'm working at a point of sale, what does it mean to enrich lives? Enriching lives means putting a smile on someone else's face. In other words, it's not very complicated. We're not talking about abstract things that only involve, just selling more. Oh yes, of course, we have to sell more of the products at the point of sale, the brands we're representing, or improve the display, or improve the training for the activities we do. But enriching life means giving the other person the chance to leave the interaction we're having a little better than when they arrived. And that's unique, and we can do it with very little. Simply by looking you in the eye and saying, I'm so glad you're here because honestly, I wanted to talk with you, and sharing some improvements with you, or approaching the product, for example, from a different angle, or solving a problem for a customer. That's what it means to enrich someone's moment in their life. Now let's try to go even deeper, shall we? I mean, since we're already on this little journey together, we bring in the concept of reimagining. One might say, well, it can come from letting go of previous concepts, right? That is, what you start by saying is, I accept the other person and I accept that I bring with me a whole lot of baggage, meaning a lot of concepts that I have to get rid of from time to time because I need to reimagine things. I don't have to be rigid. I don't have to cling to what was understood as truth yesterday. It might not necessarily be true today, right? There are absolute truths, I agree. But in our daily lives, to reimagine is to come to understand that we can do things differently. That is, if a floor manager comes and tells us, look, you can't put the display there, it doesn't mean I can't set up the display in another way. I can do it. They're simply telling me not there. And the point is that I can say to the floor manager, let me ask you something. If I bring you the materials and we manage to do that, will you allow me to do this in a week? Finding spaces of possibility is reimagining, right? Breaking through the no is reimagining, isn't it?
Yes, I talk a lot about this part, about like undoing these preconceptions or concepts that we form beforehand. And the issue of questioning ourselves based clearly on an objective. I mean, we always strive to keep firmly in mind the primary objective we are diligently trying to pursue, the fundamental purpose we inherently have, to consistently keep going forward, to effectively guide us. But this is the foundation. Then comes questioning ourselves, right? I mean, really, that's truly the most effective and optimal way to move forward. Or as you have thoughtfully mentioned, there are indeed other potential scenarios and alternative approaches. And it's absolutely crucial that we get the entire ecosystem to genuinely think and operate in this progressive manner as well, right? Because sometimes in our endeavors, you will inevitably encounter a significant amount of resistance. So we absolutely have to be the ones who actively influence others. And for that very reason, we truly need to be highly connected and deeply engaged to get to know the...
Exactly.
We keep actively influencing this environment precisely so that these important dreams can emerge or materialize much more fully, right?
Yes, look, let's take it to administration. That is, let's reimagine in administration. Okay? Let's keep following the path, right? Then we'll integrate it as if it were a Lego, enriching lives by reimagining. Well, if I'm in administration and I say I have to enrich lives, for starters, I should be really good at simplifying complexity for people, which is part of our value proposition, or at least making life easier for the person in front of me. So I say, if I can integrate a process that I currently take for granted and reimagine a new way to connect that process, which also enriches the person to whom I ultimately deliver this process, that's even better. In other words, why not do it, right? And that's what the concept of reimagining invites us to do. But then the purpose continues, doesn't it? And that's where we talk about the paths. We understand that life is made by walking. That is to say, everything is built as we go along. It's not that everything is already built, so the path is a place to be enjoyed. It's not a place of anxiety. It's not a negative place. The path is about understanding that we are not perfect, but we are perfectible. That is to say, we can always find an area for improvement. And I think it's very valid that we have to reimagine those paths. And well, then we go a little further from there. And I'll let you take it from here, Nati, because what we're saying there is to reimagine the ways in which people and brands connect, right? What do you make of this? And let's break it down a little bit.
Well, of course, I mean, we just talked about the topic of being genuine. If we take this concept of being genuine, which is the relationship that is born and maintained between a person and a brand, I think there's a lot of opportunity there, right? That is, when we carefully think about the comprehensive solutions we deliver to our valued clients, or the strategic way we thoughtfully consider the actions that will inevitably lead to these important connections. I think we have here a very important element, right? Which is precisely being genuine, right? A brand or a person can't sell something that they're not or that doesn't exist, right? That's also kind of how I think about this part of the connection between people and brands.
If you bring me the concept of connection, connection is a very beautiful concept because connection creates a space. In other words, people as one actor and brands as another actor connect. That space where they connect is precisely what tells you Marco's place. Where is Marco going to work? in the connection. And connection can happen in many different ways. It could be a sale, it could be an exhibition, it could be customer service, it could be a platform, it could be an experience. That bridge is precisely the place where Marco, quietly we have to say it because it's kind of a secret, Marco works. That's where he adds value, in the connection. So our main job will be to connect. Doing what? Whatever we know how to do best. If what I know how to do best is process payroll, then what I need to connect is the company with the person we're paying and make sure that process, that payroll payment, is the best it can be, because I'm working, I'm giving my all so that this connection is the best, is genuine, is reimagined and enriched, creates value, right? If I'm at the point of selling, and again, it's about the connection, that is what I have to do is give it my all, understanding that in that connection, I was genuine, providing a unique link between the brand I'm representing and that consumer so that the consumer leaves that interaction richer or with more information. Maybe they didn't end up buying anything. Hopefully they absolutely did. That's our primary job after all. But well, that they leave feeling much richer in terms of conceptual understanding from that particular place, right? So that's it, guys. I truly think we successfully did it. Maybe Nati, I think we've achieved a goal, let's say, which is first to tell the story of our purpose, break it down, listen to a couple of perspectives from Vic, in this case, and Marian. Basically, to rebuild our purpose from everyday life, not from abstract concepts.
Yeah, more grounded. Yes, absolutely.
Now, why is purpose important? For many reasons. But purpose creates culture. Purpose unites, purpose integrates. Purpose lets you decide whether you want to be part of this place or not. Purpose gives you the chance to say, yes, I do, or no, I don't. And that's great because it means being adults. Being adults means understanding that others won't necessarily think the same as you and that they might choose a different path. The point is that the company and the organization set a standard by saying, this is what we want to be as our purpose. And purpose, moreover, is nothing more than what makes us unique. Let's say there is no other company with the same purpose. They might sell the same service, but their purpose could be different. When you look at purpose, purpose unites and creates a unique standard and builds culture, right, Nati?
Absolutely, yes. And actually, with many people I frequently talk to, they always express this profound sentiment, how truly complex it is to find your personal purpose. Sometimes you go through life diligently trying to find it or having certain foundational elements, understanding many intricate things, just to finally arrive at this clear definition of your life's purpose. It's something really interesting. And I think that in these moments, when you find yourself in front of a company that expresses its purpose very directly, you have this opportunity to become aware of or start thinking about your own purpose. I mean, okay, the company has its purpose clearly defined, but what about mine? And I connect to that.
In fact, I'd even suggest we do a giveaway for this podcast. Let's invite everyone to try to discover their own purpose, because the clearer it is, the easier it will be to connect with others, with what's outside. Thank you truly for this space. I loved it. I really enjoyed the conversation. I liked the dynamic. I hope there will be many more episodes and seasons that we'll record for our CINP podcast.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. A new experience. I mean, it feels like every time we get to try out new things. The idea is that we have many more episodes and that we also get a lot more participation from people about how they experience our culture, translating concepts into reality. And well, in the next episode, we're going to talk about leadership, so you can join us for that one too and follow us on social media. We're always posting lots of things.
Please give us a like and share if you can, because we want to expand more on this third objective we have, which we'll definitely talk about later, which is to become a movement that transforms the way we work. And being a movement that transforms the way we work also means multiplying by liking and sharing. Nati, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who stayed with us until the end. Thank you, Vic, Marian, and a big hug. We'll see each other soon.
A hug. Bye-bye.
Bye.